In the heart of the rugged mountains, where the air was thin and the terrain unforgiving, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the valley. Elara Whitfield stood at the edge of her small cabin, her eyes scanning the horizon, a familiar sense of solitude wrapping around her like a well-worn cloak. The mountains were her home, a sanctuary where she could practice her craft as a healer and herbalist, drawing strength from the land that had shaped her life. Yet on this particular evening, the wind carried an uneasy whisper, as if the mountains themselves were warning her of the change that was about to unfold. Elara's cabin, constructed from weathered logs and adorned with herbs hanging from the rafters, was nestled against a steep incline. The surrounding landscape was a tapestry of greens and browns, punctuated by the occasional burst of color from wildflowers that bravely pushed through the rocky soil. The distant peaks loomed like ancient sentinels, their snow-capped summits reflecting the last light of day. It was a place of beauty, but also one of harsh realities, where survival depended on resourcefulness and resilience. As she prepared her evening meal, Elara's thoughts drifted to the stories she had heard of mountain hunters, men who traversed the treacherous paths in search of game. They were a breed apart, driven by necessity and the thrill of the chase. But the tales also spoke of their vulnerabilities, how even the strongest could falter when faced with the elements. It was this understanding that stirred something deep within her, a sense of duty to help those in need. That night, as the stars began to twinkle like distant lanterns, a low rumble echoed through the valley. Elara stepped outside, drawn by the sound. The wind had shifted, carrying a chill that hinted on an impending storm. The once clear sky was now cloaked in dark clouds, swirling ominously above the peaks. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach, sensing that the tranquility of her secluded life was about to be disrupted. The next morning, the storm arrived with a ferocity that took Elara by surprise. Snow began to fall, thick and heavy, blanketing the ground in a shroud of white. The world outside her cabin transformed into a swirling tempest, the howling wind drowning out all other sounds. It was in this chaos that she heard a faint cry for help, barely audible above the storm's roar. Elara's heart raced as she grabbed her coat and stepped into the blizzard. Hours passed, and the storm showed no signs of relenting. Elara continued to tend to Jasper, ensuring he regained his strength. She offered him food, warmth, and a safe haven from the tempest outside. With each passing moment, she felt a bond forming between them, a connection forged in the shared struggle against nature's wrath. But as night fell, an unsettling thought crept into her mind. What would happen once the storm cleared? Would Jasper be able to return to his life, or would he remain a lingering presence in her secluded existence? The idea of losing her solitude was daunting, yet the thought of abandoning someone in need was unbearable. As the wind howled outside, Elara made a decision. She would help Jasper recover, but she would also ensure that he understood the risks of the mountains. The next day, she would guide him back to safety, back to the life he had chosen. But deep down, she knew that the consequences of this act of kindness could ripple far beyond their immediate surroundings. The storm finally began to wane, the howling winds giving way to a gentle snowfall. Elara settled into a restless sleep, her dreams haunted by the weight of her choices. She awoke early, the dawn light filtering through the cabin's small window, illuminating the room in a soft glow. Jasper was still asleep, his face relaxed for the first time she found him. As she prepared for the day ahead, Elara felt a sense of foreboding settle in her chest. The mountains were unpredictable, and she could not shake the feeling that their fate was intertwined with something greater than themselves. The air felt charged, as if the very essence of the valley was holding its breath, waiting for the storm to pass. Once Jasper stirred, Elara shared her plan. "We'll head out as soon as the snow lets up. I'll guide you back to the main path," she said, her voice steady. Jasper nodded, gratitude shining in his eyes. "I don't know how to thank you for this. You've saved my life." Elara offered a small smile, but her heart was heavy with the knowledge that her act of kindness could have unforeseen consequences. As they prepared to leave the cabin, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing beyond the mountains, something that would soon come crashing down upon them. The moment they stepped outside, the world felt different.
The snow had created a pristine blanket over the landscape, but the silence was unnerving.
Ilara glanced at Jasper, who was scanning the horizon, his expression tense. She followed his gaze, her heart racing as she noticed dark figures emerging in the distance. A chill ran down her spine. "What are they?" she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Jasper squinted, his brow furrowing. "I don't know, but we need to move, now." Ilara's instincts kicked in, and she led Jasper away from the cabin, her mind racing with possibilities. The figures grew closer, their forms becoming more defined against the stark white of the snow. Panic surged within her as she realized the gravity of their situation. She had helped a stranger, but now that kindness had drawn the attention of a larger force. As they navigated the treacherous terrain, the weight of the moment settled heavily on Ilara's shoulders. The valley, once a sanctuary, now felt like a trap. The riders were coming, and with them, the potential for conflict. She could sense the shift in the air, the way the world around them seemed to hold its breath as the dark figures advanced. "Stay close to me," Ilara urged, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "We'll find a way through this." But as the riders drew nearer, she could feel the tension coiling tighter around them. Her small act of kindness had set off a chain of events that would forever alter the course of her life. And as the first rider approached, the reality of their predicament became painfully clear. The next day would not be just another day in the mountains. It would be the beginning of a reckoning that neither she nor Jasper could escape. Ilara's mind raced as she and Jasper navigated the treacherous terrain. The biting cold clung to them, and the wind howled, sending flurries of snow swirling around their feet. Each step felt heavier, laden with the weight of uncertainty. The rider's presence loomed over them like a shadow, and she could feel the tension creeping into her bones. As they moved deeper into the mountains, Ilara tried to focus on guiding Jasper. "Keep your footing steady," she instructed, her voice firm despite the churn of anxiety in her stomach. "We'll reach the ridge soon, but we must be cautious." Jasper nodded, his face pale and strained. "I appreciate you doing this for me. I didn't expect anyone to show kindness in these parts." His breath came in shallow puffs, visible in the frigid air. Ilara offered a reassuring smile, though her heart was heavy with the knowledge that her act of kindness had drawn them both into a perilous situation. "It's just the right thing to do. Everyone deserves help, especially in times like these." They pressed on, the landscape shifting around them. Jagged rocks jutted out from the snow, and the wind picked up, howling through the narrow passes. Ilara could see the ridge ahead, a daunting silhouette against the gray sky. She felt a pang of urgency. They needed to reach safety before the storm intensified. The atmosphere thickened with an unspoken tension. Ilara glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see the riders closing in. Instead, the valley lay still, the silence interrupted only by the crunch of snow beneath their boots. But she could sense the impending storm, the way the air felt charged with electricity, as if nature itself was holding its breath. "Are you all right?" Ilara asked, noticing Jasper's labored breathing. He was struggling to keep up, and she felt a surge of protectiveness for the man she had only just met. "I'll manage," he replied, determination flickering in his eyes. But Ilara could see the fatigue etched on his face, the way his shoulders slumped under the weight of exhaustion. With each step, Ilara's instincts screamed that they needed to hurry. The storm was not just a weather event, it was a harbinger of trouble. She could feel it in her bones, a sense of foreboding that grew stronger with every passing moment. "We need to find shelter soon," she urged, glancing at the sky, which had darkened ominously. As they approached the ridge, the wind picked up, biting through their clothes. Ilara could barely hear Jasper's labored breaths over the howl of the wind. "This way," she called, gesturing toward a narrow overhang that offered a semblance of protection from the elements. They ducked beneath the rocky ledge, and Ilara felt a momentary sense of relief wash over her. "Thank you," Jasper said, his voice hoarse. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Ilara shook her head, brushing off the compliment.
We're not out of danger yet. We need to keep moving." Just as she finished speaking, a low rumble echoed through the mountains, a sound that sent a shiver down her spine. Ilara's instincts kicked in, and she peered out from their shelter, scanning the horizon.
The dark figures of the riders were still there, but now they seemed to have multiplied, their silhouettes stark against the snow. "Look," she whispered, her heart racing, "they're gathering." Jasper followed her gaze, his eyes widening in alarm. "What do we do?" Ilara bit her lip, weighing their options. "We can't stay here for long. If they're gathering, it means they're looking for something, or someone." The thought sent a jolt of fear through her. She had helped a man who was now at the center of a brewing storm. They waited in tense silence, the storm swirling around them, obscuring their view of the valley. Ilara's mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much larger than herself. As the first flakes of snow began to fall, Ilara felt a gnawing sense of dread. "We should move while we still can," she urged, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "If we can get to the other side of the ridge, we might be able to lose them in the trees." Jasper nodded, determination flickering in his eyes once more. "Lead the way." They slipped out from their makeshift shelter, the cold biting at their skin as they resumed their trek. The snow began to fall heavier now, blanketing the ground in a thick layer that made every step a challenge. Ilara focused on the path ahead, her heart pounding with each beat. The riders were out there, and their presence hung over her like a dark cloud. As they crested the ridge, Ilara caught sight of the valley below. The once serene landscape was now filled with movement, riders on horseback, their figures darting about as they scouted the area. Ilara's breath caught in her throat. "They're looking for you," she whispered, fear lacing her words. "I didn't mean to bring this upon you." Jasper said, his voice heavy with regret. "You've done more than I could have ever hoped for." Ilara shook her head, forcing herself to stay focused. "We need to find a way down. If we can reach the trees, we might be able to hide." They descended the ridge carefully, the snow crunching beneath their feet. Ilara's heart raced as she felt the weight of the rider's gaze on her back. Every instinct told her to run, to escape the scrutiny that had suddenly turned their lives upside down. Once they reached the base of the ridge, they ducked into the cover of the trees, the thick trunks offering some semblance of safety. Ilara leaned against the tree, her breath coming in short gasps. "We need to stay quiet," she whispered. "If they find us, there's no telling what will happen." Jasper nodded, his expression grim. "I can't let you get hurt because of me." Ilara felt a surge of determination. "You didn't ask for this, and neither did I, but we're in this together now." She glanced around, her instincts heightened. The forest felt alive, the wind rustling through the branches as if urging them to move deeper into the shadows. They pressed on, weaving through the trees, the snow crunching beneath their boots. The world outside felt distant, muffled by the thick canopy above. Ilara's mind raced, weighing the implications of her earlier choice. Helping Jasper had been instinctual, a reflection of her values, but now she was faced with the reality of the consequences. As they moved further into the woods, the sound of galloping hooves echoed in the distance. Ilara's heart sank. "They're searching for us," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "We need to find a place to hide." Jasper's eyes darted around, scanning for any potential refuge. "What about that hollow?" He pointed toward a large tree with a gnarled trunk, its roots forming a natural archway. Ilara nodded, her instincts guiding her as they rushed toward the hollow. They slipped inside, the dark space offering a sense of safety, albeit temporary. Ilara pressed her back against the cool bark, her heart pounding in her chest. The sound of the riders grew closer, their voices muffled but filled with urgency. "Is he here?" one voice called out, a tone laced with authority. Ilara held her breath, her mind racing. They were looking for Jasper, and she had put herself in the line of fire by helping him.
The weight of that realization settled heavily on her shoulders. She had chosen to stand by him, but now the consequences were unfolding before her very eyes. "Stay quiet," she urged, her voice a mere whisper. Jasper nodded, his expression tense as they waited in silence, the world outside feeling like a distant nightmare. The riders' voices grew louder, their presence a stark reminder of the danger that loomed over them. Ilara squeezed her eyes shut, willing the moment to pass. She thought of her cabin, the peace she had once found in the solitude of the mountains. Now it felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the chaos that had erupted around them. As the riders passed, Ilara felt a flicker of hope.
They had evaded detection, but for how long? The reality of their situation settled in, and she realized that her act of kindness had set off a chain reaction that neither of them could escape. After what felt like an eternity, the sounds of the riders faded into the distance. Ilara opened her eyes, her heart still racing. "I think they're gone," she whispered, glancing at Jasper, who looked equally relieved and shaken. "What now?" he asked, his voice low. Ilara took a deep breath, her mind racing with possibilities. "We need to find a way to get you to safety, but first we have to figure out what they want from you." Jasper nodded, determination sparking in his eyes. "Whatever it takes, I'll do what I can to protect you too. You've already risked so much." Ilara felt a swell of gratitude at his words, but the weight of their predicament loomed large. They were caught in a web of conflict, and the choices they made from this point forward would define their fates. She had helped a weak mountain hunter cross the ridge, and now they were both facing the consequences of that choice. The valley was no longer a place of refuge, it had become a battleground. "Let's move," Ilara said, her voice steadying with resolve. "We need to get to higher ground and figure out our next steps. We can't let them find us again." With a shared sense of purpose, they slipped out of the hollow and into the trees, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The storm was far from over, but together they would navigate the treacherous path that fate had laid before them. The days dragged on, each moment weighed down by the oppressive atmosphere that enveloped Ilara and Jasper. With every sunrise, the tension in the valley thickened like the clouds that hung heavy over the mountains. The riders, a formidable presence, maintained their vigil, their watchful eyes ever present as they scoured the landscape for any sign of the mountain hunter, who had become a symbol of both danger and hope. Ilara felt the pressure mounting with each passing day. She had always been a solitary figure, her life intertwined with the rhythms of nature and the quiet solitude of her cabin. But now she was thrust into a conflict that tested her resolve and her very understanding of loyalty. The initial act of kindness that had driven her to help Jasper now loomed large over her, casting a shadow that threatened to engulf her. As she moved about her cabin, tending to her herbs and preparing simple meals, Ilara felt the weight of the riders' scrutiny. They were not merely a group of men on horseback, they were a force that demanded respect and obedience. Their presence was a constant reminder that her choice to help Jasper had consequences that rippled far beyond the immediate moment. She could feel their eyes on her, judging her actions, and it gnawed at her insides. Jasper, too, was a man transformed by the circumstances. The once proud mountain hunter now bore the marks of fear and uncertainty. He had retreated into himself, his spirit dulled by the looming threat that surrounded them. Ilara noticed the way he flinched at every sound, and how his eyes darted nervously whenever a shadow passed by the cabin. The blizzard that had once brought them together now felt like a distant memory, replaced by the chilling reality of their situation. One evening, as the sun dipped below the jagged peaks, casting long shadows across the valley, Jasper finally spoke up. "Ilara, we can't keep hiding like this. They're watching us, and it won't be long before they come looking for me. You've already risked so much by helping me, but I can't let you bear the brunt of this alone." Ilara turned to him, her heart aching at the vulnerability etched across his face. "What do you propose we do?
If we leave this cabin, we're exposing ourselves to the very danger we're trying to avoid. They're out there, Jasper. They're waiting for a reason to strike." "I know," he replied, his voice steadying with determination. "But I can't just sit here and let you take the fall for my actions. If they find me, I'll face them. I'll take responsibility." His words struck a chord within her. Ilara admired his bravery, but she couldn't shake the feeling that his willingness to confront the riders head-on would only lead to disaster. "You don't understand what you're asking. These men are ruthless. If they think you're a threat, they won't hesitate to act." Jasper stood, his frame casting a long shadow in the dim light of the cabin. "Then we need to find a way to convince them otherwise. We can't let them think I'm a danger to you or anyone else. There has to be a way to show them that I'm not the enemy." Ilara's mind raced as she considered the implications of his words. The riders were not just looking for a mountain hunter, they were searching for a reason to justify their presence in the valley.
If Jasper could somehow prove his intentions, perhaps they could find a way to defuse the situation. But how could they convince a group of men who thrived on suspicion and fear? As the night deepened, they devised a plan. Ilara would venture out to gather information, to learn more about the riders and their intentions. She would use her skills as a healer to approach them under the guise of seeking peace. It was a dangerous gamble, but they both understood that remaining passive was not an option. The following morning, Ilara donned her warmest cloak, wrapping herself tightly against the biting cold. The snow crunched beneath her boots as she stepped outside. The world around her transformed into a glistening expanse of white. The air was crisp, and the silence was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional rustle of branches heavy with snow. As she made her way toward the ridge where the riders had established their camp, Ilara's heart raced. She was acutely aware of the risks she was taking, but she also felt a surge of determination. She had to protect Jasper, to prove that he was not the threat they believed him to be. The stakes were high, and she knew that her actions could have dire consequences for both of them. When she reached the edge of the camp, she paused to observe the riders. They were a rough group, their faces weathered by the elements, their eyes sharp and vigilant. Ilara took a deep breath and stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. As she approached, she could feel their gazes upon her, assessing her every move. "Who goes there?" a voice called out, and Ilara raised her hands in a gesture of peace. "I mean no harm. I'm just a healer seeking to help." A tall man with a stern expression stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he regarded her. "What do you want, woman?" "I've come to offer my assistance," Ilara replied, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "I heard that you're searching for someone, a mountain hunter named Jasper Thane. I want to help you find him." The man's brow furrowed as he studied her. "And why would you want to help us? What's in it for you?" She hesitated for a moment, weighing her words carefully. "I believe he is not the threat you think he is. He was lost and in need of help, and I offered him shelter. I don't want any trouble. I just want to ensure that no one else gets hurt." The man scoffed, crossing his arms over his chest. "You expect us to believe that?" "A mountain hunter doesn't just wander into the wilderness without a reason. He's a danger, and we need to deal with him." Ilara could feel the tension in the air, the weight of their collective suspicion pressing down on her. "Please, just give me a chance to prove it. If you find him, you'll see that he means no harm. He's just trying to survive, like the rest of us." The man regarded her for a long moment, and Ilara held her breath, praying that he would see reason. Finally, he nodded slowly. "All right, you have one chance. If you can bring him to us, we'll listen to what he has to say. But if he poses a threat, you'll be held accountable as well." Ilara's heart raced at the opportunity, but the weight of the ultimatum hung heavily on her. "Thank you. I'll do my best." As she turned to leave, the man's voice stopped her. "And remember, healer, we'll be watching you." The warning echoed in her mind as she made her way back to the cabin. She had taken a step forward, but the danger was far from over. Jasper was still a hunted man,
and now she had tied her fate to his in ways she could never have anticipated. When she arrived back at the cabin, Jasper was waiting for her, a mixture of hope and concern etched across his features. What did they say? Ilara took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. They're willing to listen, but only if I can bring you to them. They think you're a threat, Jasper. We have to show them otherwise. Jasper's expression hardened. You put yourself in danger for me. I can't let you do that. I'll go to them, but you need to stay back. No, Ilara insisted, her voice firm. We're in this together. I won't stand by while you face them alone. We'll go as a team, and we'll show them that you mean no harm. He studied her for a moment, and she could see the conflict in his eyes. You're risking everything by doing this, Ilara. What if they don't believe us? Then we'll find a way to convince them, she replied, determination surging within her. We've come this far, and I won't stop now. We'll face whatever comes our way together. As they prepared for the confrontation, Ilara felt a sense of clarity wash over her. The choice she had made to help Jasper had led them to this moment, and she was ready to stand by him no matter the cost. The riders might see her as a healer, but she would show them that she was also a warrior in her own right. With the sun dipping low in the sky, they set out toward the riders' camp, the weight of their decision heavy on their shoulders. The valley stretched before them, a vast expanse of uncertainty, but together they would face whatever lay ahead. The storm that had once brought them together now felt like a distant memory, replaced by the storm of conflict that awaited them. As they approached the camp, Ilara's heart raced. She could feel the eyes of the riders on them, their gazes sharp and assessing. This was it, the moment that would determine their fate. Would they be seen as allies, or would they be branded as enemies? The answer lay just beyond the threshold of the camp, and Ilara was ready to fight for what was right, no matter the cost. The air was thick with tension as Ilara and Jasper approached the riders' camp, each step echoing the weight of their decision. The camp was a stark contrast to the serene beauty of the mountains that surrounded them. Tents were pitched haphazardly, and the flickering of campfires cast eerie shadows on the faces of the riders, who stood like sentinels, their expressions a mix of curiosity and suspicion. As they entered the clearing, the atmosphere shifted. Ilara could feel the collective gaze of the riders upon them, a palpable scrutiny that made her heart race. The commander, a tall man with a rugged face and piercing blue eyes, stepped forward, his presence commanding. He radiated authority, and Ilara knew that this was the moment they had been preparing for. "What brings you here?" the commander asked, his voice steady yet laced with an edge of challenge. Ilara took a deep breath, steeling herself. "We seek to speak with you. I am Ilara Whitfield, and this is Jasper Thane. We come in peace." The commander's gaze flickered to Jasper, who stood slightly behind Ilara, his posture tense. "You expect me to believe that a mountain hunter, wanted by many, is here to negotiate?" Jasper stepped forward, his voice steady despite the fear that lurked beneath. "I am not a threat. I only wish to explain my situation. I was lost in the storm, and Ilara helped me survive. I owe her my life." The commander studied Jasper for a long moment, his expression inscrutable. "You think that mere gratitude will absolve you of the sins you've committed? You've crossed into territories where your kind are not welcome." Ilara felt the weight of the words pressing down on her. He's not a threat to anyone. He was merely trying to survive, just as we all are. I helped him because it was the right thing to do. The commander's gaze softened slightly, but he remained cautious. And what of the others? The colonists who seek revenge? They see you as a traitor, Ilara. You've chosen to protect a man they believe is a monster. "I know the risks," she replied, her voice firm. "But I refuse to turn my back on someone who has done no wrong to me. Jasper deserves a chance, just as any of us do." The tension in the air was thick, and the other riders began to murmur among themselves, their voices a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Ilara could sense that the commander was weighing her words carefully, searching for any sign of deception. "Very well," he finally said, his tone shifting to one of authority. "We will give you a chance to prove your loyalty. If you can convince us that this man is not a danger, we may consider allowing him to leave without further consequence. But know this, if you fail, the consequences will be dire." Ilara nodded, her heart racing with the gravity of the situation. "Thank you. I will do my best." As they turned to leave, Jasper grasped her arm gently, concern etched on his face. What if they don't believe us? What if they decide to take matters into their own hands? Ilara looked into his eyes, determination burning within her. "Then we'll find a way to convince them. We have to believe that there is a chance for peace." The days that followed were filled with an oppressive atmosphere. As the riders remained vigilant, their presence a constant reminder of the stakes they faced. Ilara and Jasper spent their time in the camp, trying to win the trust of the riders while also preparing for the worst. Ilara took to her healing practices, offering remedies and assistance to those who were injured or unwell. Slowly, she began to earn the respect of some of the riders, who saw her dedication to the well-being of others. Jasper, on the other hand, remained on edge, his past haunting him with every passing moment. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Jasper turned to Ilara, his voice low. "I can't keep hiding forever. I need to confront my past, to show them that I'm not the monster they think I am." Ilara shook her head, fear gripping her heart. "You don't have to do this alone. We can face them together. You're not just a mountain hunter. You're a man who deserves a chance to start anew."
Jasper's eyes softened, and for a moment the weight of his burden seemed to lift. "I don't want to put you in danger, Ilara. You've already risked so much for me. And I would do it again," she replied, her voice resolute. "We're in this together, remember?" As the days turned into a week, the tension in the camp escalated. The colonists, emboldened by rumors of Jasper's presence, began to gather nearby, their anger simmering just beneath the surface. Ilara could feel the pressure mounting, and she knew that a confrontation was inevitable. One afternoon, as they were preparing for the day, a group of colonists stormed into the camp, their faces twisted with fury. "Where is he?" one of them shouted, his voice echoing through the air. "Where is the mountain hunter?" Ilara stepped forward, her heart pounding. "He's not here to harm anyone. He's seeking refuge, just as you would in his position." The leader of the colonists, a burly man with a scar across his cheek, sneered at her. "You're defending a man who's taken lives. You're a traitor to your own kind." Ilara felt a surge of anger. "I'm defending what is right. Jasper deserves a chance to prove himself, just as we all do. You can't judge him based on the actions of others." The colonist laughed, a harsh sound that sent chills down her spine. "You think you can protect him? We will not rest until he pays for his crimes." Jasper stepped forward, his voice steady. "I will face you, but know that I am not the man you think I am. I am not your enemy." The colonist's eyes narrowed, and Ilara could see the tension crackling in the air. "You think you can talk your way out of this? You're a coward hiding behind a healer." "Enough!" the commander's voice rang out, cutting through the chaos. He stepped forward, his presence demanding attention. "We will not have violence here. Ilara has chosen to stand by this man, and I respect her choice. But know this, if you seek revenge, you will have to go through me." The colonists hesitated, their anger clashing with the authority of the commander. Ilara could see the uncertainty in their eyes, and for a fleeting moment, she hoped that reason would prevail. "Let us settle this peacefully," the commander continued, his voice calm yet firm. "We will hold a council to discuss the fate of Jasper Thane. Until then, I suggest you return to your camp and reconsider your actions." The colonists exchanged glances, their anger still simmering but momentarily quelled by the commander's authority.
With a reluctant nod, they turned and left, leaving Ilara and Jasper in a tense silence. Ilara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "That was close," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Jasper looked at her, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you for standing up for me. I don't deserve it." "You do," Ilara replied, her conviction unwavering. "You deserve a chance to show who you really are." As the days passed, the council was set to convene, and Ilara felt the weight of anticipation settling heavily on her shoulders. She and Jasper prepared for the meeting, knowing that their fate would be decided by the outcome. On the day of the council, Ilara stood before the gathered riders and colonists, her heart racing. The air was thick with tension as the commander addressed the crowd. "We are here to discuss the fate of Jasper Thane. He has been accused of crimes against our people, but there are those among us who believe in his innocence." Ilara stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "I have seen the man Jasper truly is. He is not a monster, he is a survivor. We must not let prejudice cloud our judgment." The murmurs among the crowd grew louder, and Ilara could feel the weight of their scrutiny. "We all have our pasts, but it is our choices that define us. Jasper deserves a chance to prove that he can be part of our community." The colonist leader stood up, his face twisted with anger. "You're a fool, Ilara. You're putting us all at risk by defending him." Ilara met his gaze, her resolve unyielding. "What risks are we really taking? To judge a man without knowing him? To condemn him for the actions of others? We must choose a path of understanding, not vengeance." The commander nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Ilara speaks the truth. We cannot allow fear and hatred to dictate our actions. We must seek a way to coexist." As the council continued, Ilara felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps they could find a way to bridge the divide, to forge a new understanding. But as the discussions grew heated, it became clear that not everyone was willing to listen. The colonists were adamant in their demands for justice, and the riders were torn between their loyalty to Ilara and the fear of the unknown. In that moment, Ilara realized that the path ahead would not be easy.
Finally, after hours of debate, the commander called for a vote. "We will decide Jasper's fate today. Those in favor of allowing him to remain in our territory, raise your hand." Ilara held her breath as a few hands went up, but many remained down, the division stark and painful. "Those in favor of expelling him?" The majority of hands shot up, and Ilara's heart sank. "Wait!" Jasper's voice rang out, cutting through the tension. "I will leave, but I ask for one chance to prove my worth. Give me a task, something that will show you I am not your enemy." The crowd fell silent, and Ilara could see the wheels turning in the commander's mind. "What do you propose?" "If I can help protect your people from the colonists who seek revenge, will you consider allowing me to stay?" Jasper's voice was steady, and Ilara could sense the determination behind his words. The commander regarded him thoughtfully. "It is a risky proposition, but it may be the only way to prove your intentions. If you can succeed, we may reconsider our judgment." Ilara's heart raced. This was their chance. "I believe in you, Jasper. You can do this." With a nod, Jasper stepped back, ready to take on the challenge that would determine his fate. The council agreed, setting a date for his task, and Ilara felt a glimmer of hope ignite within her. As they left the council, Jasper turned to Ilara, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you for believing in me. I won't let you down." Ilara smiled, feeling the weight of their journey resting on her shoulders. "We're in this together, remember?" The days leading up to Jasper's task were filled with both anticipation and anxiety. Ilara worked tirelessly to prepare him, gathering supplies and offering advice on how to navigate the potential dangers that lay ahead. Finally, the day arrived, and Jasper set out to prove himself. Ilara watched him go, her heart heavy with worry, but also filled with hope. As the hours turned into days, Ilara waited anxiously for his return.
The atmosphere in the camp was tense, and the colonists remained restless, their anger simmering just beneath the surface. Finally, as the sun began to set, Jasper returned, bruised but alive. Ilara rushed to his side, concern etched on her face. What happened? Jasper took a deep breath, his expression a mix of exhaustion and triumph. I found the colonists. They were planning an attack, and I was able to warn the riders in time.
I didn't fight them, but I showed them that I could be trusted. Ilara's heart soared with relief. You did it! You proved your worth! The news spread quickly through the camp, and the riders began to see Jasper in a new light. The commander approached them, a hint of respect in his eyes. You have shown bravery today, Jasper. You have earned a place among us. Ilara felt a wave of emotion wash over her. They had faced the storm together, and now they were beginning to forge a new path. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the valley, Ilara and Jasper stood side by side, looking out at the mountains that had once felt so isolating. In that moment, Ilara realized that their journey had transformed them both. They had faced their fears, stood up for what was right, and found a sense of belonging in a world that often felt unforgiving. As the stars began to twinkle above, Ilara turned to Jasper, a smile on her face. We did it! We found a way to make a difference. Jasper nodded, his expression softening. And we'll continue to do so, together. In that moment, they understood the true meaning of honor and the power of standing up for what was right. The journey ahead would still be fraught with challenges, but they were ready to face it together, united in their resolve. Ilara's heart swelled with hope as she looked out at the vast expanse of the mountains, knowing that they had chosen a path of understanding and compassion. The weight of their choices had led them to this moment, and they would continue to fight for a better future, one step at a time. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment on what you would have done in their place, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next tale from the frontier.